Hey guys, Duke here, and today we are going to be talking about how to take down champions effectively, featuring Anarchy. As most people are aware, Anarchy is considered a top tier and super meta weapon in many parts of the game, and personally is my #1 choice in Grandmaster content especially. However, I found that many Guardians don't know how to effectively use Anarchy, especially when dealing with champions, so I'm creating this video to help explore how to do just that. The first thing to note is that unlike most weapons in the game, Anarchy's best damage does not come from consistently firing the weapon itself, but instead its ability to do tick damage over time while using a second weapon, such as a sniper or shotgun, to add additional DPS. In fact, a maximum of 2 Anarchy bolts are able to do damage to a single target at any given time. As you can see here, going from 1 bolt to 2 Anarchy bolts on the target effectively doubles the damage per tick. However, going to 3 or more bolts does not increase the damage at all, and only applies the initial impact damage of the Anarchy shot itself, which is minuscule in comparison. One of the few downsides of Anarchy is that it will bounce off of shields, which can be detrimental when trying to use it to break shields in match game content or when paired with Divinity. However, there are a couple ways around this. Specifically when breaking shields, if you plop an Anarchy next to the enemy with the shield, rather than hitting it directly, it will still do its tick damage on the ground, and can quickly break the arc shield of an enemy. With Divinity, the same tip can apply, but even better yet, you can hit either above the Divinity bubble, or below if the target is big enough to still stick the target with Anarchy while the Divinity bubble is up. Or even easier still, just make sure to tag the enemy with Anarchy before the Divinity bubble is up. As you can see in this example, the bolts of Anarchy that are already on the enemy get the extra damage applied once the Divinity procs on the champion. And the same rule applies for other buffs and debuffs as well, such as Weapons of Light, Sundering Gaze, Tether, and all other buffs and debuffs. Even if the Anarchy bolts are applied and on the target before the buff or debuff, once that buff or debuff is applied, the damage will be increased. For boss fights, such as the widely talked about Anarchy double slug strategy on Taniks in Deepstone Crypt, you will want to apply 2 Anarchy bolts immediately, again either shooting them before the Divinity bubble comes up, or hitting Taniks above the Divinity bubble, and then switching to slugs for the remainder of the phase. Once you get knocked out and jump back into the DPS circle, repeat by applying 2 more Anarchy bolts and again switching to slugs for the remainder of the phase. Against champions, the easiest way of using Anarchy against them will differ slightly depending on the type of champion you are facing. Starting with Overload champions, as they are probably the most difficult of the 3 champion types to deal with due to their teleporting and healing mechanics, you will first want to stun the champion to stop it from moving and teleporting all over the place. This season, bows are going to be the best bet for you to do that, but the artifact and associated champion mods for each champion type will be changing in about a week. No matter what the mods and weapon types required are in future seasons though, just remember to start by stunning the champion. Once it is stunned, immediately apply 2 Anarchy shots to the champion. This will allow the champion's health to tick down as the damage applies over time. In Grandmaster content especially, these champions can have quite a bit of HP, so communicating and making sure multiple members of your team apply Anarchy, or at least focus the same Overload champion at the same time, is crucial to killing them quickly and not allowing things to get out of control. After applying the 2 Anarchy shots, you will want to switch back to your Overload weapon of choice, and continue to apply the Overload rounds onto the champion. While the champion will be able to move after the initial stun wears off, and won't be able to be restunned for a few seconds while it has the glowing wings effect stun cooldown on it, continuing to apply Overload rounds to the champion will stop it from being able to heal during this time, which is crucial if you are not able to do enough damage as a fire team to burn it down immediately on 1 stun. Just be alert that, as mentioned, there will be a few seconds of time that the champion can move, can't be stunned, and most importantly, can shoot back at you, so be sure to be careful when continuing to apply Overload to stop it from healing. You can repeat this as many times as needed until the champion is dead, but if reapplying Anarchy after the second stun, the champion should be defeated. Unstoppable champions are pretty simple to deal with and much less threatening than Overload champions due to not being able to heal or teleport, while also usually having minimal range that they are a threat to you at. For Unstoppables, you are first going to want to stagger them using Unstoppable rounds. Note that for Unstoppable specifically, you will need to aim down sights using whatever weapon and mod is required for that season until you see the Unstoppable buff appear on the left side of your screen. You will also notice that your weapon will have a little bit of an effect to it once you have aimed down sights long enough as well. Immediately after staggering the champion, switch to your Anarchy and apply 2 bolts to the enemy. After the 2 bolts are applied, you can also switch to a sniper or secondary high damage weapon to burst it down faster, but I will tend to conserve ammo a bit on Unstoppable specifically if needed, just due to their lower threat. Unless of course I have plentiful ammo, or the situation is more stressful, such as getting backed into a corner, or if your teammates are down. Finally, we have barrier champions. For barrier champions, it depends a bit on my positioning and the type of barrier champion for the order in which I apply Anarchy. The 2 strategies I use are either to apply 2 Anarchy bolts first, and then immediately switch to my anti-barrier weapon of choice to break the barrier. The other option is to wait for the barrier first to break it, and then apply the 2 Anarchy bolts, and then switch back to your anti-barrier weapon to continue to damage and wait for another barrier break. The second option has a bit of upside in that the barrier will be stunned and not moving when applying your Anarchy, but it has the bit of downside in that it requires a bit more weapon switching back and forth. Both strategies work perfectly fine though, and as I mentioned, I personally use them pretty interchangeably depending on positioning of both myself and the champion I'm going after. One final tip to mention about Anarchy in all situations applying to both champions or any other type of enemy is that you don't necessarily need to directly attach both Anarchy bolts to get the 2 bolts per tick damage. If one of your Anarchy bolts hits an enemy, and the second bolt is close enough to create an attached line that is unique to Anarchy, both bolts will apply the damage to the enemy. This can be useful if you either miss a shot, but it is close enough to apply if the second shot hits, as this can reduce your ammo consumption, or can also be helpful on a moving target coming towards you to aim a bit low if you hit your first shot, so that your second shot will either hit the enemy or be close enough to still apply the second bolt's worth of tick damage. And one final and important note, how to get Anarchy in the first place. If you do not already have Anarchy, it can be bought from the Monument to Lost Lights kiosk in the tower, which is right next to your vault. In order to purchase it, you will need 240 Spoils of Conquest, 2 Ascendant Shards, 150,000 Glimmer, and an exotic cipher. This is a hefty cost, especially if you are a newer or solo player, but the biggest cost is almost certainly the 240 Spoils of Conquest for most players. I have a video guide linked on screen and in the description below that will allow you to get up to 30 spoils a week even if you have never done a raid and don't have a team, and it will only take about 20 minutes of your time per week. This means you can get the spoils for Anarchy in 8 weeks even as a non-raid solo player. If you're willing to find a team for raids, you can get it done even faster. But either way, Anarchy is extremely well worth this time and effort investment as one of, if not the single best weapon in the game, in my opinion. Thank you for watching my guide to taking down champions effectively. I hope this video helped, and a rating and any feedback below are extremely appreciated. And as always, have a wonderful day.